I'm actually really excited about this. I saw something on Nextdoor, and if you're not familiar with that, it's the equivalent of Facebook, but for your neighborhood, about a new service that was popping up that involved composting. And I was really excited about it because I've tried to do composting in the past and it hasn't worked out really well. So the service itself was intriguing to me. And when I went to the company, the organization, to their website and read about the service and why the person who started it brought it about, it spoke to me. So I'll read you a little bit from the website about Jesse and why he started this. Is it a nonprofit or is it a for-profit, Jesse?
It's a for-profit.
Okay, so I always use the word organization since I'm in the nonprofit world, but for this company, called Happy Earth Compost. So this is Jesse writing. So last year, I'm just going to use the first person because it's a whole lot easier. Yeah, last year, I hit my tipping point when I realized my family was generating more than a bag of trash per day. This was after we separated out recycling. It hit me that if every family is doing the same, my 3 kids and future generations beyond them would be overwhelmed by trash. I set out to find a way to reduce our footprint. After some research, I discovered composting. This could provide the solution. After a couple of weeks of trying it at home, I quickly realized that I didn't want to do this on my own. And again, this is where it sounded really familiar. I didn't have the time or patience, and I wanted to include as much possible in the compost. For example, meat, dairy, and other products are no-nos for home composting. I realized at this point that if I was having this issue, there had to be others. Again, sounds familiar, right? After some research, my hunch was verified. So I set out about looking for a commercial compost company to gauge interest in helping residential customers compost. New Earth Compost was extremely excited with the concept and agreed to help us implement the service. We are extremely excited to bring this service to Houston, and I hope you'll join us in making the Earth a little bit happier. So just one other personal note, I mentioned earlier my daughter who's getting married, she lives in Portland, and if you know anything about the Pacific Northwest, that whole Portlandia thing is real, and they are very devoted to progressive issues. So she is constantly chiding me for not doing even more for the environment. So between her and my 2 grandchildren, I feel a great sense of responsibility to our future world. And so I was really excited to be able to do composting in my own life in a very easy and non-involved way. So with that, I'll give you to Jesse Stowers, the owner and originator of Happy Earth Compost. So thanks, Jesse.
Thank you, Mary. I appreciate it, and I'm really excited to be here. And so again, as Mary kind of told you, the background behind like why we've started this, and it's and so I'll kind of jump into why composting matters, and this is the non-scientific version because I'm certainly no expert at actual composting processes and that sort of thing. I try to be more the middleman because I recognize it's something that can make a difference. So just some general ideas of why composting matters, and many people actually think that when you put trash into the landfill, it gets composted, and that's not really what happens. When it kind of goes into the landfill, it gets covered up, doesn't get exposure to air, and doesn't break down the right way. There's specific ways that it has to be broken down so you can turn into something useful, as opposed to just sitting there and not breaking down the right way. And when it doesn't break down the right way, you end up with things like methane, hazardous things that aren't very helpful. But when it's done, when this type of stuff is done, put into the appropriate environment, it actually can be used to generate useful soil and those sort of things for gardens and many, many other things. So that's like a common thought by some people, is that, oh, I'm throwing it in the landfill, it's breaking down. Well, it's not, unfortunately. The other thing that I think always surprises people is the amount of compost they generate. For example, my family, we use 5-gallon buckets, and my family will produce anywhere from 3 to 4 5-gallon buckets of compost our food waste a week. You know, we do a lot of fruits and veggies and that sort of thing. So we generate a lot, and we're, you know, we have a large family. But others, I think, are surprised by how much they actually generate. I had multiple people say, "Oh, well, you know, I don't have to take my trash out as much," or that, and then my trash doesn't smell as bad when I start doing this. So, you know, it's definitely more impactful than you might initially think. You can compost a lot more than you think. And I've seen, depending on what you read, you know, you can see anywhere from 25 to 40% of the stuff you throw in your trash is compostable. So, you know, let's just say it's 40%, you know, almost half that could be going to something useful as opposed to going to, you know, the landfills where it's not broken down the right way. And so with all this in mind, you know, we set about trying to, you know, come up with a service that helped. I mean, we tested it and we gauged interest, and we kind of came up with a company, a concept that we felt that was, you know, it's you know, my goal is you know, to benefit future generations that by doing this, you know, to minimize trash, reduce trash, and so we, you know, our goal is, okay, we want to provide a curbside program that allows customers to compost. You know, some people try it at home, some people don't want to try it at home. So we thought, well, let's bring them the tools to be able to do it without really having to do it. So we've tried to make it, you know, very simple. And we've tried to also, we're working to, you know, provide service to as many people as possible. So you'll kind of see where we do provide service, that we've tried to not limit it, and we've tried to offer different levels of services that, so, you know, different, you know, we understand different customers, different people have different needs. And so we've tried to, you know, make it available as much as possible. We also try to give back to our community. We understand that, I think from, you know, our company is a sustainability company. And so we recognize community is important. It's everything in terms of being sustainable. You need community support. You need the community to buy in and go through this with us, you know, to have a real impact. And so we work with the community. We try to give back as much as we can. And like anything else, you know, we try to keep things simple, easy, and fun. Because if something's complex, it's hard to get people to do it. And we recognize that everybody's busy, everybody has a lot going on. So if we can make something easy and beneficial, and it helps, you know, us be more sustainable as an environment, we think we're doing what we need to do. And so just kind of walking through what we do to make it simple, we've set up a process to where we provide the items on the right to our customers. There's a 5-gallon bucket with a nice lid that seals very nicely. We provide people with an indoor bin that goes on their countertops. It helps keep, you know, gives them a place to put it while they generate some. We give them indoor bags to fill up the bags to keep things nice and tidy. And these are, of course, compostable bags. These are backyard compostable bags, so they break down. And we also give them a list of what they can compost. So again, giving people the tools, not leaving a whole lot for interpretation, trying to make it very, very simple. And so we give them these things. And then people collect the waste, and then on their day of pickup, we come and pick up the bucket and give them a new one. Give them a clean one to start it again. And then, you know, as a nice perk for our customers, we provide compost upon request for them. So if they want some compost back, we'll bring it back. So, you know, if you're a gardener, or if you need to refresh your plants, you know, indoor plants, outdoor plants, whatever, if you want some, we bring some back. So it's just a nice perk, and, you know, of the whole service. I talked about trying to provide service as broadly as possible. This is actually an old map, but you can kind of see, you know, I've got to zoom in on the right, but, you know, the one on the left, you can see we go out all the way to 99, all the way around. We've got quite a few people down in the League City area. We go all the way out to Katy. We're up in Spring. We have a huge presence in the Inner Loop as well. So, we try to make it as available as possible. Sometimes, some of these single dots out here aren't the most efficient in terms of a business model, but our thought is, well, let's just make it as available as possible, and we'll fill in where we need to, and we want people to be able to do this stuff, and so that's generally why we go. We'll go most places. We don't really say, we don't set a limit. If it's reasonable, we'll go there. If it's close, we'll go there, and we've kind of extended out as we go. And it definitely fills in between. So it's worked out nicely. And then levels of service, for the smaller families, we'll come it says monthly, it's every 4 weeks. And then there's the bi-weekly options, there's a weekly plan, and then we do a drop-off option as well. So if, right now we drew those drop-off options at various farmers markets. So it works nicely because the people that typically are going to the farmers markets, or that, they would support this sort of concept. And it just provides a nice place for people to go look around, and then they can shop, and then they can swap out their buckets that they like with us. So it's, and it allows people who don't want to spend the 25 and the 35 away to do, a lesser option, because it's, you buy all the buckets and stuff, and then it's just $5 per drop off. So it's fairly inexpensive to participate. And then, so that's the rationale, is let's give people options. Let's make it available. Different people have different needs and wants, and so that's kind of why we've done a lot of these different types of options. Giving back to the community, this is a little old, this slide, but we've provided, a lot of the places we do are schools, young schools that have gardens. And we currently have several requests for compost, because it's nice. Like the elementary school that backs up by my house, they have a garden, and it's just a nice way for kids to learn and see like what it looks like to grow your own stuff. So we love participating and providing compost to various schools and different things. The facility, the senior citizen facility here, it's a place where they can go out and garden, and it's just a way to get outside and do things. So we try to like give back. We like doing it. We understand it. If I personally like going out and gardening. My wife loves gardening. It's just a nice way to get outside and do just be interact with nature, kind of see how things slow down a little bit, get off the computer, get away from the TVs, those sort of things. Our kids love it. So we find that gardening is a nice way to get back in touch with nature. And then, in keeping things fun, we do these monthly, what we call bucket surprises. And this is actually an example. We did this last month. We provided this little bag. This actually folds out into like a grocery bag type of bag, and it's reusable. And then there's this little wax paper. It's not paper, but beeswax stretchy paper. It works kind of like saran wrap. You can reuse it, and it stretches over your Tupperware or what have you. And then there's a soap here that we're working with a company called Pop Soap this month, that they make a vegan soap. And so it's just all of these are sustainable items. We try to offer things every month to help educate people that there are sustainability options out there. There's things that people can find. Like in the previous months, we've given bamboo toothbrushes. We've given toothpaste tabs where you kind of chew them and brush your teeth with them. Different types of things, just to give people something to look forward to when they participate, as well as just show them that, hey, there's a lot of these things out here, if you just look around. And so and then I've got a slide on what you can compost. It's just a nice extensive list of all the things you can throw in your compost bucket. I mean, the main things are, don't do plastic, don't do metal, and, try to no wax coated items. But a lot of other stuff is compostable. We get questions a lot around meat and cheese and all that good stuff. People are always surprised, but most of most people, you know, if you're doing this in your backyard, you don't want to throw that stuff in there because you'll attract a lot of friends that you don't want. But where we take it, the new Earth facility out in Fulshire, you know, they're not too worried about that. So all this stuff can be folded into their process, and it works very nicely. And it allows, like for example, me, a lot of my byproducts are like eggs and eggshells and, you know, meats and cheeses and chicken, you know, stuff leftovers that we didn't go through. So it works very nicely for us. And I kind of designed it to work for me, who you know, me and my family. So that was kind of the general concept. But I mean, those are all the slides, and I you know, I kind of wanted to talk through, you know, my thinking in terms of how we set up the business model we set up, you know, what we're trying to do. I'm happy to answer other questions or walk through different things. You know, there's definitely been learnings and challenges and all sorts of interesting things as we've worked through this company. We started in May. Well, I started testing the concept in late March, early April, which interestingly enough, you think about the timing, very, very much when COVID was taking off. So we kind of started it there. So it was definitely, I mean, I wouldn't say difficult to do it just because there was, you know, we didn't have any customer interaction. You know, it's literally drop off the buckets and people set them out. So it's very similar to your trash. But the interest we've garnered since then has been, you know, really, really good. Because I think when I did the test model, I did it in my neighborhood, which I'm out in West Houston, and I think I had like 30 neighbors try it, and then we officially launched May 1st. I think for that official launch, we had about 75 people sign up, and here we are, October 9th, and we have I think last I looked, right at around 700 customers. So it's the interest has been phenomenal. The growth has been great. Customers are great to work with. You know, it's people who care, and so it makes it fun to work with them for sure. And so it's been an enjoyable process, and we look forward to continuing it. And with that, if you guys have questions, or, you know, I'm certainly willing to answer anything you guys have, or you know, so just I will turn it over to you guys.
Jesse, this is Bill. Let me ask you a couple of questions right off the top. And the first one, and you may have covered, I don't see on your list, I see no plastic, metal, wax-coated items. What about, I would assume styrofoam is not compostable, right?
Correct. Styrofoam is not.
Okay.
I think there are places that will recycle it, but or there used to be. I don't know if there's many left. But styrofoam is kind of one of those things that you want to stay away from as best as possible.
Well, sure. Yeah.
It's always shocking to me, and to go to like Chick-fil-A and they still have, at least the last time I went, I think they have styrofoam. Maybe they've gotten rid of it, but anyway, yeah, it's one of those things that we don't like. The one thing I should add that we don't have on here is yard waste, and yard waste is definitely compostable. The issue is it's a scale issue. It's the amount of yard waste that's generated is something we want to address. We don't have that solution yet, because frankly, we're not big enough to handle that amount of waste yet. So we'd like to get there, and we plan to get there. It's just not there yet. So, in case you noticed that and didn't see it on there.
Well, the other question is that I would have, how many employees do you have?
Let's see. Right now, I am running 1, 2, 3. I'd call 3.5 guys and gals running full time. That's running the general operations. And then on the weekends, we have some others that go to farmers markets for us, which that equates to one more full-time person. So roughly, 4 full-time, 4.5 full-time people.
Okay. I can't see everyone, but I'm sure there's probably some other questions. If you have a question, just speak up.
Hey, Bill, it's Gwen. I put a question in the chat for him.
Okay. Jesse, Gwen's question. Her neighborhood is in 3rd Ward, University Oaks. She says that she sees that you have customers on either side of them.
Mm-hmm.
And she would love to talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
Great speaker at the University Oaks Civic Club meeting. And if you would put your contact information in the chat so that she could contact you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to do that. Trying to find it.
Yeah, the chat, you probably access it down at the bottom
Lost it.
and just type it in there. Or you can send it to Mary and she can get it going as well.
And I have a quick question.
Okay.
If there are a lot of things that are on the list that in typical composting, or they say not to throw eggshells or not to throw meat or citrus peels. Does it matter? Is it just if you're home composting versus what you do? Because there were a few things on the list that I see on a lot of other sites say really you shouldn't put those in the compost.
I mean, so, and again, this is, I'm certainly not the composting expert. I have worked with New Earth to understand what they're good with us putting in there, and my understanding is it's because they're a large scale compost company and they get large amounts of stuff. They're able to handle all of these things, and they just kind of fold it into all the other things that get brought in. So I mean, the science of why and why not on some of these things, I don't really have the answer. I could look it up, look into it for you, but
well, yeah, it would be interesting because I know there are a lot of things I throw in the trash that I've been told I really couldn't or I shouldn't compost. But if I could, that would make a big difference, because you're right. In the beginning, when you said, yeah, you compost 40% of your stuff, and I was thinking to myself, oh, how can you do that with all of the exclusions that I have on certain lists of composting? But then a lot of those you have on your list, and now I can see how that even after recycling with trash, you could certainly fill up one of those buckets. So that would be interesting to know.
Okay. Well, that's good. I mean, it's not the first time I've had this type of question. So I'll circle back with New Earth and kind of ask them about, you mentioned eggshells and you mentioned citrus, right?
Correct. You know, and again, it all depends. A lot of this are little infographics that I get, or when you look up online, and it says, yes, you can do these, but you should stay away from these. And it could be, it's because I'm home composting versus a larger facility like that maybe can handle it. So I would like to know what the difference is.
Okay. Yeah, let me look into that. And what I'll do is I'll get the answer, and then I can share it with Mary, and then I guess can she share it with you guys?
Yeah, that's no problem.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
Where do you keep the bucket in your house, and will it attract, roaches and things like that?
So different people do things differently, and I've learned different things as we've gone through this. So initially I kept my 5-gallon bucket outside. It has it's hard to see on here. The lid that's on it it's called like a gamma seal lid. It has, it basically is a big round disc that you push down on the bucket, and then there's a twist on piece, and so there's a little gasket that keeps keeps stuff out. As long as it's closed tight, you don't have to worry about bugs. And what I've learned that is when it gets really hot, that's when stuff gets worse, if it's open at all. And so, I keep mine really tight, and B, I'll keep mine inside so it doesn't get to, it doesn't get to going like some of the other stuff when it sits outside. But I guess to your original question regarding bugs and roaches and stuff, no, I haven't had any issues with it, but that's, we keep it the indoor bin that we put on the countertop, as long as you change that every 2 days or so, it's, I don't let it go any longer than that. And we have the bags that keep it pretty clean. And then we dump it in the 5-gallon bucket. As long as that thing's twisted on tight, you're good to go.
Okay. Do you service Kingwood?
Yes. Yep, we have customers. I guess you can't see the map anymore, but yes, we come up to Kingwood.
Good. Thank you.
So I have a quick comment and then I have a question as well, just for everyone's reference. In my house, it's just my husband and I. We don't have, our kids are all grown and gone. And we're getting pretty close to more than maxing out 1 5-gallon bucket a month, which is amazing to me. Just that we have that much to be composted. So if that gives you a point of reference, that's how much of a difference it's made in my garbage. Especially with all the, like Genevieve said, all of the different things that you can now compost. I mean, napkins alone has really tallied up in my compost. But then I would love to hear more. You mentioned briefly how you work with schools. And for what it's worth, I live on the other side of the same elementary school that you do. We're on opposite sides of the same school. So I know exactly what you're talking about with the composting. But how are you working with schools to do composting again?
So the way, so we don't have composting programs. We will donate compost for their gardens.
Got it.
I think eventually it'd be wonderful to work with schools in terms of setting up compost programs, because I think that's how you teach the next generation about sustainability. You show them that it's not hard to do. And so we would love to get there and have that opportunity, but we haven't got it, we haven't had the chance, honestly, to get into that, especially right now with, all the COVID stuff going on, that nobody wants to introduce new stuff, and completely understand. We wouldn't want to honestly try to roll out something like that right now. But I think that's definitely a next step in the future is, how do we get into schools and get that option going? Because I go eat, before, like last year I would go eat with my son at lunch, and you see the amount of stuff that gets thrown away that, maybe should be diverted, and there's tons of it. So it's just, those are some not easy wins. Those are some things that definitely should be looked at, and should be, we should try to make a difference there for sure.
Gwen, Carl, I had a question.
What about, are you also working with like institutions and businesses like restaurants and hotels and things like that?
Yeah, so good question. We do work with commercial businesses. There's probably 8 commercial businesses we work with right now, a couple coffee shops. There's a company called Kicking Kombucha. They make kombucha tea that we work with in Houston. So yes, short answer is yes, we do work with different locations. We don't have any major restaurants right now. Again, that's another, they've been hesitant to do these kind of things, because the environment to spend more money right now is definitely challenging, in terms of, a new concept. But yeah, as we grow and as things get back to normal, we certainly are looking and trying to do more of those things. So yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, somebody asked about the cost. So depending on which option you would like to go with, the monthly option is $15 a month, and that's a pickup every 4 weeks. The bi-weekly is $25, and the weekly is $35. And then if you were interested in doing like the drop-off option, it's the setup fees are like $35 to get the bucket and the indoor bin, and that's really just the cost to cover all the components. And then it's just $5 a month for a drop-off at our markets. And so, but if you sign up for a regular monthly plan, you don't have to pay the setup fees. You don't have to worry about those.
At the drop-off at the markets, are you there? Well, I don't know whether the markets are open every week, but are you there when they're open? Yes,
yeah. So we're, it depends on the markets. Most of them are open from 10 to 2. And we have several in the inner loop. we have one in Katy. We have one in it's the Bay Area Farmers Market. We don't have any in the northern part of Houston, like up in Spring, that we go to right now. But and they have different frequencies. Like the one in Katie's every other week.
Right.
The one, there's one in West Houston we go to every couple of weeks. So it just depends on the location. We're looking at other partnerships with grocery stores and stuff to try to do a more regular drop off in different areas. And there's, I think we're optimistic we have a good opportunity coming forward, but I don't want to mention it until it happens. So, but we continue to try. It's again making things easy for people, and we try to continue to offer options that will make it easy for people. So.
Well, having grown to 700 clients during a pandemic is pretty impressive in itself. So if you can do that much under these conditions, you really ought to flourish once things correct themselves.
Yeah. I think it speaks to the demand for, I think people are, I don't know if it's the pandemic or what, being at home, seeing all this stuff, but I think there is and will continue to be a push for sustainability. And I always, I equate it to, my oldest son's 9. And when he was born, we wanted to get organic stuff for him just because we thought, well, we can afford it, let's get it. And the selection was not very good. And here 9 years later, you can get it at just about any store, and the pricing is extremely competitive with non-organic stuff. So it's amazing the transformation in the last several years, and I would expect that to continue. Which is good. I think it's good that people are continuing to think about the world and how it matters. So.
Well, great. Well, do we have any other questions before we wrap up? I know that Vanu, I assume we have taped this presentation as well.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
we got it taped, so we'll put it on the website.
Yeah. And Jesse, we have made a policy to try to tape our presentation. So if anyone wants to access it after the fact, I know that there are a number of interesting comments that have been made in the chat room, and all of them very positive. And someone had looked at your website and said it was impressive and easy to understand and to follow. So that's a good thing too.
Excellent.
So hopefully you'll get some good coming out of this, and certainly it's a worthwhile thing for all of us. So